When we think of ancient Egypt, towering pyramids, sprawling temples, and vast stone monuments immediately dominate our imagination. Yet, what often gets overlooked is the sheer brilliance behind these structures, the minds, techniques, and daring vision that transformed endless desert landscapes into one of the most advanced civilizations in history. At the heart of Egypt's engineering marvels lay a philosophy that merged religion, power, and practicality into stone, mud brick, and innovation. These monuments were not just feats of construction, they were statements of eternity, designed to outlast time itself. Unlike modern skyscrapers, which rely on steel, concrete, and digital precision, Egyptian engineers worked with tools that seem primitive by today's standards: copper chisels, wooden sledges, ropes, and manpower. Yet somehow, they managed to cut, transport, and place stones weighing tens, even hundreds of tons, with a degree of accuracy that still baffles modern architects. To understand Egypt's engineering, we must first understand their world. These were not just buildings, they were vessels of divine purpose. Temples were built to house gods, pyramids to secure immortality, and monuments to broadcast the might of pharaohs across centuries. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza, standing at a staggering 481 feet when completed around 2560 BC. For over 800 years, it held the title of the tallest man-made structure on Earth, a record unbroken until the construction of medieval cathedrals in Europe. Its precision is uncanny. The base is nearly a perfect square, its sides aligned with the cardinal directions to within fractions of a degree. This was not guesswork. It was advanced surveying, astronomy, and mathematics at play. Even today, many experts debate how such precision was possible without compasses, cranes, or modern machinery. But pyramids were just the beginning. The Egyptians mastered hydraulics with canals that redirected the Nile's flooding waters to irrigate crops. They invented ramps and levers powerful enough to drag an obelisks upright. They constructed temples like Karnak and Luxor with columns so massive that even our most advanced cranes today would struggle to move them. The scale of their ambition was matched only by their patience. Some projects took decades, even generations, to complete, requiring not only engineering brilliance, but also social organization, logistics, and an economy capable of sustaining thousands of workers. It wasn't just size that defined Egyptian engineering. It was durability. While many ancient civilizations left ruins that crumbled with time, Egyptian monuments stand tall after millennia. This endurance was no accident. Builders carefully selected materials: limestone for outer casing, granite for chambers, sandstone for temples, knowing which stones would resist erosion, floods, and the desert sun. Their mastery of stone cutting techniques, combined with knowledge of natural geography, allowed them to create monuments that were both beautiful and unyielding. Yet, perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Egyptian engineering lies in its mystery. How did they achieve feats that seem impossible even today? How did they lift stones heavier than jumbo jets? How did they carve hieroglyphs and statues with such perfection? And above all, why did they invest such immense resources into building structures that often served no immediate practical purpose, but instead carried symbolic and spiritual meaning? These questions spark endless fascination, and while archaeologists and engineers provide theories, ramp systems, counterweights, sledges lubricated with water, no single explanation fully captures the ingenuity of the ancient builders. What we do know is this: Egypt's engineering marvels were not random constructions, but carefully designed projects blending science, religion, and art into monuments that still captivate us today. And as we begin this journey into their greatest engineering achievements, one question looms larger than all others. If the pyramids, temples, and obelisks we see today were only part of what survived. What other marvels have been lost beneath the sands, waiting for their secrets to be uncovered? Perhaps the greatest engineering marvels of Egypt are not the ones we admire today, but the ones still buried, silent, and waiting to be rediscovered. No discussion of Egyptian engineering can begin without the Great Pyramid of Giza, the crowning jewel of Egypt's old kingdom and the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. Commissioned by Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BC, this monument was more than a tomb. It was a statement to the gods, the people, and to time itself. Standing at 481 feet upon completion, with over 3 million blocks of stone, some weighing more than 70 tons, it remains one of humanity's greatest engineering accomplishments. To this day, engineers and historians wrestle with the same fundamental question: how was it built? The sheer scale of the pyramid boggles the mind. The base covers 13 acres and is nearly a perfect square, its sides aligned almost flawlessly with the 4 cardinal points of the compass. Such precision would challenge modern surveyors armed with GPS. Yet the Egyptians achieved it with little more than sightlines, simple tools, and an unrivaled understanding of the stars. Ancient builders aligned the pyramid with celestial bodies, reflecting their belief that the pharaoh's soul would ascend to the heavens after death. Every angle, every chamber, every corridor was planned not only with mathematical brilliance, but also with cosmic purpose. Transporting and lifting the colossal stones used in the pyramid's construction has long been the subject of speculation. Theories range from massive straight ramps to spiraling internal passageways. Recent discoveries suggest that water may have been poured onto sand in front of sledges, reducing friction and allowing teams of workers to drag blocks across great distances. Whatever the method, the coordination required is staggering. Tens of thousands of laborers, overseers, and skilled craftsmen worked in harmony, fed and housed in a bustling workers' village nearby. This was not slave labor, as often imagined, but an organized workforce of farmers, who contributed during the Nile's flood season when fields were underwater. Inside the pyramid lies even greater mystery. The king's chamber, constructed with red granite blocks weighing up to 80 tons, was transported from quarries over 500 miles away in Aswan. Above it, a series of relieving chambers distribute weight, preventing collapse, an ingenious design feature showing deep structural knowledge. Narrow shafts extend from the chambers to the outside, precisely angled to align with specific stars. To the Egyptians, these were spiritual passageways, guiding Khufu's soul to the afterlife. To modern minds, they are proof of an advanced understanding of astronomy and engineering far ahead of their time. Even more puzzling is what we have yet to discover. In recent years, thermal scans have revealed anomalies, hidden voids inside the pyramid that remain unexplored. Are they empty spaces created for structural purposes, or do they conceal chambers yet to be revealed? Some even wonder if they might hold treasures or texts that could rewrite history. The pyramid, despite centuries of study, still guards its secrets with silent defiance. What makes the Great Pyramid so extraordinary is not only its construction, but its endurance. For over 500 years, it has weathered earthquakes, storms, and invasions, standing tall when countless other monuments of history have crumbled to dust. Its casing stones, once polished limestone that gleamed brilliantly in the sun, reflected light so powerfully that the pyramid could be seen from miles away, earning it the title it, the glorious light. Imagine standing in the desert sun, gazing at a structure that seemed to radiate divine brilliance, a beacon of eternal power. And yet, even as we marvel at its grandeur, we cannot shake a haunting thought. Was this monument truly built with methods we understand, or is their knowledge lost to time? Knowledge that allowed the Egyptians to achieve what seems impossible even today. The Great Pyramid is not merely a tomb. It is a puzzle carved in stone, a riddle that refuses to yield its full answer, leaving us to wonder if humanity has truly uncovered all its secrets. Rising from the Giza plateau, its silent gaze fixed eternally eastward, stands one of the most enigmatic monuments of ancient Egypt, the Great Sphinx. With the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, this colossal statue embodies strength, wisdom, and divine guardianship. Carved from a single mass of limestone around 2500 BC, most likely under Pharaoh Khafre, it measures 240 feet long and 66 feet high, making it the largest monolithic statue in the world. Yet despite its size and fame, the Sphinx remains shrouded in mystery. Who truly built it? What was its purpose? And why does it still carry scars from battles both human and natural? Unlike the pyramids, whose scale is matched by countless theories, the Sphinx seems almost otherworldly in conception. Its sheer presence inspires awe, the lion's body symbolizing power and the king's face representing divine rule. Many Egyptologists believe it was meant to guard Khafre's pyramid complex, standing as a sentinel of the dead. Yet, its eroded face, battered by time, raises further questions. Was the visage always Khafre's, or could it depict an earlier pharaoh, perhaps even Khufu himself? Some fringe theories suggest the Sphinx predates Khafre by thousands of years, a relic of a forgotten civilization, its true builders lost to history. The engineering required to carve the Sphinx was itself monumental. Hewn directly from bedrock, the statue was surrounded by deep trenches cut by workers with copper chisels and dolerite-pounding stones. The stone blocks removed from these trenches were then repurposed in nearby temples, including the mysterious Valley Temple, itself a marvel of megalithic construction. The precision with which the Sphinx's body was shaped, despite the softness of limestone, demonstrates a mastery of large-scale stonework that remains unmatched. Even its paws, stretching forward in symmetrical perfection, show the care with which it was planned. But the true fascination lies in its secrets. Between the Sphinx's massive paws rests a granite stela known as the Dream Stela, erected by Pharaoh Thutmose Roman IV around 1400 BC. It recounts how the young prince fell asleep in the shadow of the Sphinx and dreamed that the statue promised him kingship if he cleared away the sands burying its body. This story transformed the Sphinx from mere guardian to divine oracle, whispering its will through dreams and visions. To the Egyptians, it was not just a monument, but a living entity. Centuries later, the Sphinx fell victim to erosion and human intervention. Its nose and ceremonial beard are famously missing. Legends claim Napoleon's troops blasted the nose with cannon fire, though sketches predating his arrival prove it was already gone. The reality is less dramatic. It was likely destroyed in medieval times by iconoclasts who viewed the statue as a pagan idol. As for the beard, fragments of it are housed today in the British Museum and Cairo, hinting at the grandeur it once possessed. With its full adornment, the Sphinx would have looked even more imposing, a true fusion of man and beast. Modern studies reveal even greater mysteries. Geological surveys show unusual patterns of erosion on the Sphinx's body, leading some scholars to suggest that heavy rainfall, not desert winds, caused the damage. If true, it could mean the Sphinx dates back thousands of years earlier than accepted, to a time when the Sahara was still green and fertile. This tantalizing possibility shakes the very foundations of Egyptian chronology. Could the Sphinx be far older than the pyramids themselves? Could it point to a civilization long forgotten, one whose knowledge vanished into the sands? Adding to the enigma are rumors of hidden chambers beneath the statue. Ground, Penetrating radar has revealed cavities beneath its paws and body, fueling speculation of a hall of records, a mythical library said to contain the wisdom of the ancients. Though excavations have never confirmed such a chamber, the possibility alone keeps the legend alive. What secrets might lie locked beneath the Sphinx, waiting to be uncovered? The Great Sphinx endures as a riddle in stone, its face scarred, its body weathered, but its power undiminished. Standing silently in the desert, it whispers of forgotten ages, of pharaohs and gods, of mysteries too vast for easy answers. The Sphinx stares across millennia, daring us to solve its riddle. But perhaps the real secret is one humanity was never meant to uncover. Long before the pyramids of Giza dominated the skyline, an extraordinary experiment in stone forever changed the course of Egyptian architecture: the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara. Rising in 6 stacked tiers, this ancient structure was the brainchild of a revolutionary mind, Imhotep, the high priest, physician, and architect whose genius made him one of the most celebrated figures of the ancient world. Built around 2670 BC for Pharaoh Djoser, this pyramid was the first of its kind, a daring departure from mudbrick mastabas to monumental stone construction. It was, in essence, the prototype for every pyramid that followed. At first glance, the step pyramid may seem crude compared to the sleek lines of Giza. But in its time, it was nothing short of astonishing. Standing nearly 200 feet high, it was the tallest structure ever built in stone. For the Egyptians, it represented a bold new vision of eternity, a literal stairway to the heavens. Djoser's spirit, they believed, would ascend each step toward the gods, bridging the mortal and divine realms in a way no previous monument had attempted. The genius of Imhotep cannot be overstated. Before him, pharaohs were buried in mastabas, flat-roofed tombs made of mud brick. Imhotep took this design and expanded it, stacking one mastaba atop another, creating a series of steps that soared skyward. But this was more than a stack of stone. It required engineering breakthroughs, quarrying limestone blocks on a massive scale, transporting them across the desert, and aligning them with astonishing precision. For the first time in history, stone became the medium through which kings would secure their immortality. Beneath the pyramid lies a labyrinthine complex of tunnels and chambers, stretching nearly 4 miles. Within these subterranean passages, Djoser's burial chamber was encased in granite, a material so hard that its transportation and carving raise questions even today. The walls of certain chambers were inlaid with blue faience tiles, shimmering like the vault of the sky, a symbolic embrace of eternity. These underground corridors were not simply for burial. They were designed to confuse and deter tomb robbers, though history would prove that even these defenses could not withstand the persistence of thieves. Surrounding the pyramid itself is a vast mortuary complex, enclosed by a massive wall with 13 false gateways and 1 true entrance. This illusionary design symbolized the passage between life and afterlife, ensuring only the pharaoh could enter the eternal realm. Courtyards within the enclosure hosted ritual performances that reenacted Djoser's divine power, affirming his eternal kingship. The architecture was not just practical, but profoundly symbolic, blending engineering with spiritual meaning. For centuries, the step pyramid stood as a beacon of innovation. It marked the birth of the Pyramid Age, paving the way for the smooth-sided pyramids of later dynasties. Without Imhotep's vision, the Great Pyramid of Giza might never have been conceived. His achievement was so profound that centuries later, he was deified as a god of wisdom, medicine, and architecture, the only non-royal Egyptian ever to receive such an honor. In many ways, Imhotep was the true architect not only of stone, but of Egyptian civilization itself. Yet, mysteries surround the step pyramid. Despite its monumental design, no mummy of Djoser has ever been found within. Some believe his remains were looted in antiquity, while others suggest he may never have been buried there at all. Could the pyramid have served more as a symbolic gateway than an actual tomb? If so, its purpose may have been less about death and more about reinforcing the eternal power of kingship. The structure also raises questions about forgotten knowledge. How did Imhotep, with no precedent to follow, master the complexities of large-scale stone construction on his very first attempt? Was it pure genius, or does it hint at techniques and traditions now lost to history? Some fringe theorists even suggest he inherited wisdom from earlier, unknown civilizations, making the step pyramid a remnant of a much older legacy. Today, standing in the shadow of the step pyramid, one cannot help but feel its quiet power. Though weathered and worn, it still towers over Saqqara, a testament to humanity's first leap toward architectural immortality. It is both a monument and a message, whispering across millennia. Greatness begins with bold vision. But if the step pyramid was merely the beginning, what unimaginable feats awaited in the centuries that followed? The sands of Egypt still conceal wonders that defy belief. Few monuments in the world stir as much awe and mystery as the Great Sphinx of Giza. Carved directly from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, this colossal figure of a lion with the head of a man has watched silently over the desert for nearly 50 years, measuring 240 feet long and 66 feet high. It is the largest monolithic statue of the ancient world. And yet, despite its size and fame, the Sphinx remains one of Egypt's greatest enigmas. Who built it? What purpose did it serve? And what secrets might it still guard beneath its paws? The conventional story ties the Sphinx to Pharaoh Khafre, the builder of the second pyramid at Giza. Scholars argue that its face bears his likeness, a symbol of divine kingship combining human intelligence with leonine strength. Positioned as a sentinel facing the rising sun, the Sphinx likely embodied solar power and divine protection, guarding both the pyramids and the sacred necropolis. But here lies the first puzzle. There is no inscription, no record, no definitive proof linking the Sphinx to Khafre. The monument stands silent, its origins veiled in mystery. The engineering feat alone is staggering. Hewn from a single mass of limestone, the Sphinx was carved directly into the natural rock of the plateau. Workers had to chisel away thousands of tons of stone, shaping it into graceful contours and powerful symmetry. Imagine the sheer manpower required. Thousands of laborers with copper tools, working tirelessly under the blazing sun, transforming raw desert rock into a masterpiece of both art and architecture. Around it, massive stone blocks removed during carving were repurposed to build temples, suggesting a grand design that integrated the Sphinx into a broader ceremonial complex. Over the centuries, the Sphinx endured relentless assaults from nature. Shifting sands buried it up to its neck for long stretches of history. Only occasional excavations by pharaohs and later rulers freed it from its sandy prison. The erosion patterns on its body remain a hotly debated subject. Some researchers claim the weathering is the result of heavy rainfall, suggesting the Sphinx could date back thousands of years earlier than the reign of Khafre, perhaps to a forgotten pre-dynastic era. If true, this would upend everything we think we know about Egyptian history. The face of the Sphinx, too, raises questions. Was it recarved in antiquity? Some argue the head appears disproportionately small compared to the massive body, hinting that it may once have depicted a lion entirely, later modified into a pharaoh's likeness. Others point to damage inflicted by erosion, vandalism, and even cannon fire in the past, making it difficult to determine its original form. Yet, despite the scars, the Sphinx's gaze remains hypnotic, a silent riddle carved in stone. Legends that surround the Sphinx are equally fascinating. Ancient texts speak of it as a divine guardian, a voice of prophecy. The famous dream stele of Pharaoh Thutmose IV, placed between its paws, recounts how the young prince fell asleep in the shadow of the buried Sphinx and dreamt that the great beast promised him kingship if he freed it from the sands. Inspired, Thutmose ordered its excavation and restoration, and true enough, he later ascended the throne. Was this divine intervention, or a clever tale crafted to legitimize his rule? Modern investigations have only deepened the mystery. Ground penetrating radar has revealed cavities and anomalies beneath the Sphinx, leading some to speculate about hidden chambers or tunnels. Are there secret halls beneath the paws of this stone colossus? Could they hold forgotten texts, treasures, or records of a civilization lost to time? Egyptologists remain cautious, but the tantalizing possibility keeps explorers and theorists endlessly intrigued. The Sphinx is not merely a statue, it is a paradox. It is at once guardian and enigma, symbol of both strength and silence. Its creators left no words, only stone, and perhaps that silence was intentional, for the Sphinx is more than a monument, it is a challenge. It dares us to look, to wonder, to question. To gaze into its ancient eyes is to confront the unfathomable distance of time itself. Today, the Great Sphinx stands as a global icon, photographed by millions, yet understood by none. Tourists marvel at its scale, scholars debate its origins, and mystics claim it hides the wisdom of the ancients. But no matter how much we uncover, the Sphinx refuses to give up its secrets entirely. Its very power lies in its silence, in the mysteries it withholds. What if the Sphinx is not simply a monument, but a key? An ancient lock hiding truths too profound for the modern world to comprehend. Towering like frozen rays of the sun, the obelisks of ancient Egypt remain some of the most breathtaking engineering achievements ever created. These colossal monoliths, carved from a single block of stone and polished to gleaming perfection, were not merely monuments. They were statements of divine power, precision, and ambition. Rising toward the heavens, each obelisk symbolized the sun god Ra, connecting the earth to the divine sky. But how did the Egyptians carve, transport, and erect such impossible stones thousands of years ago? Without modern cranes, steel tools, or heavy machinery. The answer continues to astound engineers even today. The obelisks began as a vision deep within Egypt's stone quarries, particularly at Aswan. It was here that masons would locate a flawless slab of red granite, one stretching up to 100 feet in length and weighing hundreds of tons. But the real marvel begins in the carving process itself. With nothing but dolerite pounding stones, workers chipped away at the rock, painstakingly shaping the obelisk directly from the bedrock. This process could take years. The workers carved trenches around the massive block, creating channels that slowly freed the obelisk from the earth. The unfinished obelisk of Aswan, still lying cracked in its quarry, gives us a haunting glimpse of this Herculean effort, a monument that never saw the sun yet still testifies to the labor of thousands. Once the obelisk was freed, the true challenge began: transportation. Imagine moving a 300-ton stone over desert sands, across rivers, and into the heart of Egypt's great temples. Archaeologists believe the Egyptians employed a combination of sledges, lubrication with water or oil, and immense human effort, dragging the monolith along specially prepared tracks. Boats designed to carry the weight of an obelisk would then float the monument along the Nile, carefully balanced to prevent disaster. The precision of these operations suggests planning of the highest order, mathematics, engineering, and sheer organizational brilliance. Erecting the obelisk was no less daunting. Theories abound. Some suggest the Egyptians built massive mud brick ramps, slowly pulling the stone upright with ropes and counterweights. Others propose that obelisks were levered into place, tilted gradually until gravity took over. However it was done, the result was spectacular. Once raised, the obelisk stood as a gleaming marker of a pharaoh's reign, its surface carved with hieroglyphs praising gods and kings, its polished tip often capped with electrum, gleaming in the sun like a shard of fire. The obelisks were not just monuments, they were cosmic instruments. Standing at the entrances of temples, they aligned with the rising sun, marking celestial events and linking earthly kingship with the eternal cycles of the heavens. They cast long shadows that may have been used as sundials, symbolically measuring the march of time under divine order. Each obelisk told a story of a ruler's devotion to the gods, of the unity of heaven and earth, and of Egypt's mastery over stone and spirit alike. Yet the obelisks also carried secrets. The unfinished Aswan obelisk suggests that even with all their skill, the Egyptians occasionally pushed the limits of their technology too far. A single crack meant years of labor were lost, the monument abandoned. Why did they take such risks? Was it sheer ambition or something more? An attempt to defy human limitation and reach toward eternity itself. Centuries later, many obelisks were stolen, transported to Rome, Constantinople, Paris, London, and New York, where they still stand as silent witnesses to Egyptian genius. To this day, engineers struggle to fully replicate how the ancient Egyptians achieved such feats without advanced tools. Each obelisk abroad serves as both a marvel and a mystery, a displaced fragment of Egypt's monumental legacy. Standing before an obelisk, one cannot help but feel dwarfed by both its scale and its precision. Every angle, every hieroglyph, every glimmering edge tells us that this was not random construction, but intentional artistry, an act of engineering merged seamlessly with spiritual vision. These stones were meant to last forever, and in many ways, they have. But the deeper question remains, were obelisks simply monuments of pride and devotion, or did they serve hidden purposes we no longer understand? Some theorists whisper of energy, geometry, and power harnessed from the heavens, encoded in the very shape of these towering spears of stone. Whether or not such theories hold truth, one thing is certain: standing in their presence, the air feels charged, as though the ancient Egyptians captured something more than sunlight. Could the obelisks have been more than monuments? Perhaps ancient devices designed to channel forces we have yet to comprehend. If the pyramids were built for the dead, then Karnak was built for the living gods. Stretching across more than 200 acres, the temple complex of Karnak in Thebes' modern Luxor was not just a single building but a sprawling sacred city of temples, pylons, chapels, and obelisks. It was the beating spiritual heart of Egypt for nearly 2,000 years, constantly expanded and reshaped by successive pharaohs who sought to leave their mark on its colossal stones. Even today, as sunlight pours over its colossal ruins, Karnak feels less like a temple and more like a timeless realm where heaven and earth converge. Walking through Karnak, one is immediately overwhelmed by its sheer scale. The great hypostyle hall, with its 134 massive columns, some soaring over 60 feet tall, creates the sensation of stepping into a forest of stone. The columns are carved with intricate hieroglyphs and reliefs that once blazed with color, depicting pharaohs in eternal dialogue with gods. Imagine priests chanting hymns while the columns echoed their voices, and shafts of sunlight pierced the dim hall, making the space feel alive with divine presence. No wonder visitors often describe Karnak as an architectural miracle, even in ruins. But how did the ancient Egyptians raise such immense stone columns and carve them with such precision? Each column required not only engineering mastery, but also artistic brilliance. The blocks had to be quarried, transported, and stacked with perfect balance, then adorned with imagery that reinforced cosmic order. Some scholars believe that the columns may have represented papyrus stalks, turning the whole into a symbolic marsh, the primordial swamp from which creation itself arose. In this sense, Karnak was not just a temple, it was the universe itself, rebuilt in stone. The sheer ambition of Karnak was unmatched. Pharaohs like Seti I and Ramesses II each sought to expand it, competing to outdo their predecessors by adding larger pylons, taller obelisks, and grander halls. But this constant building was more than vanity. It was a declaration of Egypt's stability and prosperity. To maintain and expand Karnak was to demonstrate that Egypt's gods were still powerful, that the pharaoh remained the chosen intermediary between heaven and earth. Yet Karnak also hides puzzles. The temple was designed with precise astronomical alignments. During solstices and certain festivals, sunlight would pierce directly through its massive gateways, illuminating statues deep within its sanctuaries. This alignment suggests the Egyptians not only mastered stone, but also the stars. Karnak was a cosmic machine, merging architecture with celestial cycles, a place where time, light, and ritual intertwined. Beneath the visible temple lies another enigma. Excavations have revealed layers upon layers of construction, older shrines buried under newer ones. Each pharaoh built upon the past, literally covering the legacy of their ancestors with their own. What secrets still lie hidden under Karnak's foundations? Some archaeologists believe older sanctuaries may remain entombed, preserving knowledge from Egypt's earliest dynasties. Among the most intriguing features are the sacred lakes, where priests purified themselves before rituals, and the massive walls inscribed with records of battles, offerings, and divine decrees. These inscriptions make Karnak not just a temple, but a living archive of Egyptian history. Every pharaoh who contributed to its expansion ensured that his name and deeds would echo through eternity, etched into stone for future generations to see. But for all we know about Karnak, mysteries endure. How did they raise the towering obelisks that once stood proudly in its courts? How did they plan and coordinate construction on such a vast scale across centuries? And why do the temples seem to embody both political propaganda and deep spiritual cosmology, serving as both a royal stage and a sacred universe? Standing in the ruins today, the stones still seem to hum with unseen energy. The great hypostyle hall, even in silence, feels alive, as though it remembers every prayer, every chant, every festival that once filled its air. For the ancient Egyptians, Karnak was not just a place of worship, but the very center of creation itself. But if Karnak was the heart of Egypt's divine world, what deeper mysteries still lie hidden within its vast ruins, waiting to be uncovered beneath layers of stone and sand? When we think of Egypt's great monuments, the mind leaps to pyramids and temples rising skyward. But some of the most astonishing feats of engineering were not built above the sands, but carved deep within the earth. Hidden in the cliffs west of Thebes lies the Valley of the Kings, a royal necropolis where pharaohs of the New Kingdom, including Tutankhamun, Ramesses II, and Seti I, were laid to rest in tombs carved into the living rock. Unlike the towering pyramids of earlier dynasties, these tombs were concealed beneath the desert, designed as eternal fortresses of secrecy. Yet their labyrinthine design, intricate decoration, and architectural complexity reveal an engineering genius every bit as impressive as the pyramids themselves. The choice to abandon pyramid building was deliberate. By the New Kingdom, tomb raiding had become a constant threat, with treasures stolen and mummies desecrated. Pharaohs turned to secrecy, hiding their tombs in the Valley of the Kings, where cliffs and desert terrain offered natural protection. But creating these tombs was no simple matter. Workers hacked through limestone with copper chisels and wooden mallets, carving corridors that plunged hundreds of feet into the rock. Some tombs extended over 700 feet, with multiple chambers descending passageways, and trap-like bends designed to confuse intruders. The sheer planning required to design these underground complexes shows that Egyptian engineering was not limited to massive stone blocks, but extended into the very bones of the earth. The tomb of Seti remains one of the most magnificent examples. Its walls are covered in vibrant scenes from the Book of the Dead and other sacred texts, creating a cosmic map meant to guide the pharaoh's soul through the underworld. Every inch of stone was carved and painted with extraordinary detail, scenes of gods, serpents, stars, and endless symbols of rebirth. The ceilings glittered with stars, turning the tomb into a miniature universe, a place where the king would travel through night to reach eternal dawn. The engineering here was not just structural but symbolic. Every angle, every chamber, every corridor aligned with religious meaning. But constructing these tombs came with constant dangers. Workers faced collapsing ceilings, flooding from sudden rains, and suffocating dust in the narrow tunnels. To combat these risks, engineers employed ingenious techniques, reinforcing weak stone with plaster and wooden supports, redirecting water through channels, and carefully mapping every corridor. Despite these precautions, evidence shows that accidents were frequent, and many workers left graffiti on the walls, recording their presence, frustrations, or prayers for safety. These simple markings give us rare glimpses into the lives of the laborers who toiled in darkness to secure their king's eternal rest. The most famous tomb, of course, is that of Tutankhamun. Discovered nearly intact in 1922 by Howard Carter, it revealed treasures beyond imagination: golden shrines, chariots, statues, and the iconic golden mask. Yet Tutankhamun's tomb is surprisingly small compared to others in the valley, raising questions about whether it was hastily repurposed due to his sudden death. If such a modest tomb could conceal wonders that stunned the modern world, what might have once filled the vast and now emptied chambers of greater kings like Ramesses the Great? The Valley of the Kings also hides engineering puzzles. Some tombs feature shafts that plunge straight downward, their purpose unclear. Were they symbolic passages to the underworld, air shafts, or perhaps traps for would-be robbers? Others show signs of abrupt abandonment, suggesting collapses or even political upheaval during construction. The layout of the valley itself seems carefully chosen, with tombs positioned in ways that may have had astronomical or religious significance, though much of this remains speculative. What is certain is that the Valley of the Kings represents a radical shift in how Egyptians conceived of eternity. The pyramids shouted their power to the world, but these underground tombs whispered their secrets to the earth itself. Hidden, silent, and eternal, they embodied a new kind of engineering, one that sought not just to build but to conceal, to merge architecture with invisibility. Even today, many tombs remain unexplored, sealed by debris or awaiting discovery beneath the cliffs. The valley may still hold royal mummies, treasures, and forgotten corridors that could reshape our understanding of Egyptian history. The silence of its cliffs is deceptive, for within lies a labyrinth of secrets, carved by hands that believed eternity could be engineered with stone and faith. And yet, for all their brilliance in hiding the dead, could the ancient Egyptians have anticipated that one day the valley itself would betray their secrets to the living? As we trace the arc of Egyptian engineering, from the soaring pyramids to the secret tombs of the Valley of the Kings, we arrive at a question that has haunted historians, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. How did a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago create structures so precise, so ambitious, and so enduring that they still defy modern comprehension? Egypt's engineering was not merely technical. It was a language of stone, one that expressed faith, authority, and a vision of eternity unmatched by any other ancient culture. At the heart of this legacy lies the precision of their craft. The Great Pyramid of Giza, constructed with millions of stone blocks weighing up to 80 tons, aligns with the cardinal directions with astonishing accuracy, deviating by less than a fraction of a degree. This level of precision suggests not only advanced tools, but an understanding of astronomy and mathematics that feels almost modern. How did they achieve such alignment without compasses, lasers, or GPS? Some scholars point to careful observations of the stars, particularly the circumpolar constellations, while others speculate about methods that remain elusive. Regardless of the answer, their achievement continues to inspire awe and debate. But Egyptian engineering was not just about scale or mathematics. It was about innovation in the face of challenges. When stone was scarce, they invented quarrying techniques that extracted massive blocks from bedrock. When transport was impossible by land, they carved canals and floated blocks on the Nile. When floods threatened temples, they built retaining walls, drainage systems, and ingenious channels to control water. Time and again, they adapted and solved problems in ways that show a profound mastery of both natural forces and human labor. Their mastery extended into symbolic design. Every temple, tomb, and monument was more than stone and mortar. It was a cosmological statement. Temples like Karnak were aligned with solstices and equinoxes, allowing shafts of sunlight to pierce inner sanctuaries at exact moments of the year. Tombs were painted with maps of the afterlife, where engineering became theology and architecture became scripture. Even statues were positioned to face rising suns, linking human kingship with celestial rhythms. The Egyptians were not just building monuments, they were building a universe in miniature, binding heaven and earth with stone. The endurance of these structures speaks volumes. While empires rose and fell, wars raged, and natural disasters struck, Egypt's monuments remained. The pyramids still dominate the desert skyline, temples still stand despite earthquakes, and inscriptions carved thousands of years ago still speak clearly to those who can read them. Such resilience was no accident. It was the product of deliberate engineering choices, from the slope of a pyramid's sides to the careful selection of limestone, granite, and sandstone. The Egyptians engineered not just for the present, but for eternity. And yet, mysteries remain. Some monuments, like the unfinished obelisk of Aswan, hint at techniques we still struggle to reconstruct. Theories abound. Did they use copper saws with sand abrasives to cut granite? Did they employ ramps spiraling around pyramids or cranes of wood and rope? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. Each discovery opens new questions, as if the Egyptians intentionally left behind puzzles to ensure their legacy would never be fully unraveled. What cannot be denied is the impact of their work on the world that followed. Greek architects studied Egyptian temples, Roman engineers marveled at their obelisks and carried them back to Rome. Even today, modern architects and scientists turn to Egypt for inspiration, whether in solar alignment, monumental design, or sheer audacity of vision. Their works remind us that technology is not only about machines, but about imagination, belief, and the will to build beyond one's lifetime. The true marvel of Egyptian engineering lies not just in the stones themselves, but in the silence that surrounds them. For all our studies, their builders' names are often lost, their methods obscured, and their motives still debated. And perhaps that is the greatest achievement of all, to create works so enduring, so mysterious, that they outlived not only their makers but the very memory of how they were made. Even today, as visitors walk through the shadow of the pyramids or descend into the tombs of kings, they experience the same wonder that must have gripped the Egyptians themselves. The monuments are not relics of a dead past. They are living mysteries, inviting every new generation to marvel, to question, and to dream.